Most of humanity lives in a state of perpetual waiting. They wait for conditions to change, for circumstances to improve, for others to recognize their worth, for the external world to somehow magically rearrange itself to match their desires. But I tell you now with complete certainty born of experience that this waiting is the very thing that keeps you bound to your present limitations. The external world is nothing more than a reflection of your internal states of consciousness. And until you learn to assume the feeling of your wish fulfilled, that external world will continue to mirror back to you exactly what you have always been. The art of assumption is the most practical thing in the world. It is not mysticism, though it may seem mystical to those who have never practiced it. It is not magic, though its results may appear magical to those who witness them. It is simply the natural law of consciousness operating through the medium of human imagination. When you truly understand what it means to assume your new identity, when you actually feel yourself to be what you desire to be, the whole vast world must reshape itself to confirm your assumption. But let me be clear about what assumption really means. For this word has been so diluted by casual usage that its true power has been forgotten. To assume is not to pretend. To assume is not to hope or wish or desire. To assume is to actually take upon yourself the mental and emotional state of already being what you want to be. It is to feel so completely identified with your desired state that there is no longer any sense of separation between you and it. When you have truly assumed your new identity, you do not think about it. You do not work toward it. You do not hope for it. You simply are it. This is where most people fail in their attempts to transform their lives. They try to assume while still maintaining their old identity. They attempt to feel wealthy while still feeling poor, to feel loved while still feeling rejected, to feel successful while still carrying the consciousness of failure. This creates an internal contradiction that cancels out the power of assumption. You cannot assume your new identity while holding on to your old one. The assumption of the new must be so complete that the old simply ceases to exist in your consciousness. The foundation of all successful assumption lies in understanding that consciousness is the only reality. Everything you see, everything you experience, everything that appears to have solid existence in the world around you is nothing more than consciousness pushed out into manifestation. Your body, your environment, your relationships, your circumstances, all of these are simply external reflections of states of consciousness that you have assumed, either consciously or unconsciously, either deliberately or by default. When you begin to grasp this truth, you realize that changing your external conditions is not a matter of manipulating the world around you. It is a matter of changing the consciousness from which you are operating. And the way you change consciousness is through the disciplined practice of assumption. You must learn to feel yourself into the state of being that corresponds to your fulfilled desire. And you must maintain that feeling with such consistency and intensity that it becomes your natural state of being. The secret lies in understanding that your imagination is not separate from reality. Your imagination is the creative power of God operating through you. When you imagine yourself to be what you desire to be, when you feel it so vividly that it becomes real to you, you are not engaging in fantasy. You are engaging in the fundamental creative act by which all things come into existence. Everything that exists was first imagined. Everything that you see in the world around you was once nothing more than an imaginable act in someone's consciousness. But imagination without feeling is powerless. You can imagine yourself wealthy 1,000 times. But if you do not feel wealthy, if you do not assume the emotional state of wealth, your imagination remains barren. The feeling is the secret. The feeling is what breathes life into your imaginal act and transforms it from mere fantasy into creative power. When you can imagine yourself in possession of your desire and feel the reality of that possession, you have set in motion the forces that must inevitably bring that desire into manifestation. This is why I emphasize again and again the importance of living from the end. Do not live in hope of your desire's fulfillment. Do not live in expectation of its coming. Live from the assumption that it is already yours. Live from the feeling of the wish fulfilled. When you live from the end, you collapse time. You bring the future into the present moment and make it your current reality. The external world may take time to catch up with your assumption, but in consciousness, the transformation is instantaneous. Let me tell you exactly how to practice this art of assumption. First, you must become very clear about what you want to be. Not what you want to have, not what you want to do, but what you want to be. For being is the foundation of having and doing. If you want wealth, You must assume the identity of a wealthy person. If you want love, you must assume the identity of a person who is deeply loved. If you want success, you must assume the identity of a successful person. The having and the doing will follow naturally from the being. Once you have identified the identity you wish to assume, you must construct a scene that would imply the fulfillment of your desire. This scene should be simple, natural, and involve some action on your part. If you wish to assume the identity of a successful business owner, you might construct a scene where you are signing an important contract or addressing your employees. If you wish to assume the identity of a happily married person, you might construct a scene where you are wearing a wedding ring and someone is congratulating you on your marriage. The key to making your scene effective is to make it sensory vivid. You must see what you would see, hear what you would hear, feel what you would feel if your desire were already fulfilled. But most importantly, you must capture the feeling of fulfillment. You must feel the satisfaction, the joy, the sense of completion that would be yours if your desire were already realized. This feeling is the soul of your assumption, and without it, your technique becomes nothing more than empty mental exercise. Now comes the discipline that separates those who succeed from those who fail. You must return to this scene again and again, particularly in that drowsy state just before sleep when your conscious mind relaxes its guard and your subconscious becomes most receptive to impression. Night after night, you must feel yourself into this scene until it becomes more real to you than your present circumstances. You must persist in this assumption until it becomes your natural state of consciousness. This persistence is absolutely crucial, for your subconscious mind is habituated to your old identity. It has been maintaining your current reality for years, perhaps decades, and it will not easily surrender its familiar patterns. You must be more persistent in assuming your new identity than your subconscious is in maintaining your old one. You must return to the feeling of your wish fulfilled with such consistency and intensity that your subconscious has no choice but to accept it as your new reality. During this period of gestation, you may find that your external circumstances seem to contradict your assumption. You may be assuming wealth while your bank account remains empty. You may be assuming love while you remain alone. You may be assuming success while you face apparent failure. This is the test of your faith, the trial of your assumption. You must not let appearances shake your conviction. You must remember that the external world is always the last to change, and you must maintain your assumption regardless what your senses report. This is where most people abandon their assumption. They allow the evidence of their senses to override the testimony of their imagination. They forget that consciousness is the only reality and that all external conditions are simply shadows cast by their states of consciousness. They return to their old identity because it seems more real, more solid, more supported by evidence. But I tell you that the evidence of your senses is the least reliable guide to truth. Your senses can only report what has already been created by consciousness. They cannot reveal what consciousness is in the process of creating. The man or woman who would successfully assume a new identity must learn to live by faith rather than by sight. Faith is not belief in the impossible. Faith is loyalty to your unseen reality. It is fidelity to your assumption despite all appearances to the contrary. When you have faith in your assumption, when you remain loyal to your new identity, regardless of what your present circumstances may suggest, you demonstrate the quality of consciousness that inevitably manifests as change conditions. But let me address a common misunderstanding about assumption. Some believe that to assume effectively, they must deny present circumstances or pretend that their current problems do not exist. This is not true assumption. True assumption does not require you to deny any facts. It requires you to transcend them. You can acknowledge your present circumstances while simultaneously assuming your new identity. The key is to give greater reality to your assumption than to your present conditions. Think of it this way. An actor on stage may be playing the role of a king, but he does not deny that he is actually a common man. He simply gives greater reality to his role than to his personal circumstances for the duration of the performance. In the same way, you can acknowledge your present circumstances while giving greater reality to your assumed identity. You live from your assumption while passing through your present conditions. The power of assumption becomes even more evident when you understand that you are always assuming something. Every moment of every day, you are maintaining some identity, some sense of who and what you are. The question is not whether you will assume, but what you will assume. Most people assume by default. They accept the identity that has been given to them by their circumstances, their upbringing, their past experiences. They assume limitation because limitation has been their experience. They assume lack because lack has been their reality. But you have the power to assume by design. You can consciously choose the identity you wish to embody. You can deliberately select the state of consciousness from which you wish to operate. This is your divine prerogative, your God-like power. You are not a victim of your circumstances. You are not bound by your past. You are not limited by what others believe about you, but what you have believed about yourself. You are the operant power in your world, and assumption is your method of operation. When you begin to assume consciously and deliberately, you discover that the world is far more malleable than you ever imagined. People change their attitude toward you. Opportunities appear where none existed before. Resources become available that were previously beyond your reach. The very fabric of your reality reshapes itself to accommodate your new assumption. This is not coincidence. This is not luck. This is the natural law of consciousness manifesting through your assumption. But remember that assumption is an art that requires practice. Like any skill, it improves with repetition. Your first attempts may feel awkward, artificial, unnatural. This is normal. You have been assuming your old identity for so long that it feels natural, while your new assumption feels foreign. But persist in your practice. Continue to return to the feeling of your wish fulfilled. Day by day, your new assumption will become more natural, more automatic, more spontaneous. As you persist in your assumption, you will notice subtle changes beginning to occur. Your thoughts will begin to align with your new identity. Your words will begin to reflect your assumed state. Your actions will begin to flow from your new consciousness. You will find yourself naturally behaving as the person you have assumed yourself to be. This is the beginning of manifestation, the first sign that your assumption is taking root in your consciousness. The more completely you assume your new identity, the more quickly it will manifest in your experience. Half-hearted assumption produces half-hearted results. Occasional assumption produces occasional results. But complete, persistent, unwavering assumption produces inevitable results. When you assume so completely that you no longer think of yourself as assuming, when your new identity becomes so natural that you forget you ever were anything else, manifestation becomes automatic. This is the state of consciousness that I call living from the wish fulfilled. You are no longer working toward your desire. You are no longer hoping for its fulfillment. You are living as though it is already yours, because in consciousness it is already yours. This is the end of struggle, the end of effort, the end of trying to make things happen. When you live from the wish fulfilled, things happen through you rather than by you. Many people resist this teaching because it seems to place all responsibility on their shoulders. They prefer to believe that their circumstances are beyond their control, that they are victims of forces larger than themselves. But I tell you that this responsibility is not a burden. It is the greatest gift you could ever receive. It means that you are not powerless. It means that you are not dependent on others for your happiness, your success, your fulfillment. It means that you have within yourself the power to create any life you can imagine. The moment you truly accept this responsibility, the moment you fully embrace your power as the operant consciousness in your world, everything changes. You stop looking outside yourself for salvation. You stop waiting for conditions to improve. You stop hoping that others will change. You turn within and begin the work of assumption, the work of becoming who you want to be rather than remaining who you have been. This work of assumption is not always easy, but it is always simple. It requires no special knowledge, no particular talent, no external resources. It requires only your willingness to feel yourself into the state of your fulfilled desire and to persist in that feeling until it becomes your natural state of consciousness. Every person has this ability. Every person can learn this art. The only question is whether you will have the persistence to practice it until it becomes second nature. The transformation that assumption can produce in your life is beyond anything you can currently imagine. I have seen the poorest become wealthy, the loneliest find love. The sickest become healthy, the most unsuccessful achieve their greatest dreams. I have witnessed these transformations not once or twice, but hundreds of times in the lives of ordinary people who learn to assume extraordinary identities. But perhaps more importantly, I have experienced this transformation in my own life. I have proven the power of assumption not just in theory but in practice. I have lived from the wish fulfilled and watched as my entire world rearranged itself to match my assumption. This is not something I believe. This is something I know. This is something I have lived. And now I pass this knowledge to you, not as mere information, but as living truth. You have within you the same power that has created every great achievement in human history. You have within you the same consciousness that has manifested every beautiful thing you have ever admired. The only difference between you and those who have achieved what you desire is that they learn to assume the identity of achievement. While you have continued to assume the identity of limitation, tonight I challenge you to begin the practice of assumption. Choose the identity you wish to embody. Construct the scene that implies its fulfillment. Feel yourself into that scene with all the vividness and intensity you can muster. Return to it again and again until it becomes more real to you than your present circumstances. Persist in this assumption until it becomes your natural state of consciousness. Do not be discouraged if results do not appear immediately. Remember that consciousness is like a garden. You plant the seed of your assumption. You water it with persistent feeling and you wait for it to bear fruit. Some seeds sprout quickly, others take longer to germinate. But if you maintain the proper conditions, if you continue to nourish your assumption with feeling, if you protect it from the weeds of doubt and fear, it will inevitably manifest in your experience. The law of assumption is impersonal. It works for everyone who applies it correctly, regardless of their background, their education, their circumstances, their past failures or successes. It is not a reward for the good or a punishment for the bad. It is simply the way consciousness operates. When you assume something to be true about yourself, consciousness has no choice but to manifest evidence of that assumption in your experience. This means that you are always demonstrating the law, whether you know it or not. Your present circumstances are the perfect reflection of what you have been assuming about yourself, consciously or unconsciously. If you do not like your present circumstances, do not blame others or fate or chance. Look within and ask yourself what you have been assuming. What identity have you been maintaining? What feeling have you been carrying about yourself in your life? When you identify the assumption that has been creating your unwanted circumstances, you can immediately begin to change it. You can consciously choose a new assumption, a new identity, a new feeling about yourself. This is your power, your prerogative, your divine inheritance. You are not bound by what you have been. You are free to become what you choose to be. The time for transformation is now, not tomorrow, not when conditions improve, not when you feel more confident or more prepared. Now, this very moment, you can begin to assume the identity you desire. This very moment, you can begin to feel yourself to be what you want to be. This very moment, you can begin to live from the wish fulfilled. Remember that assumption is not a one-time event, but a way of life. It is not something you do occasionally when you want something specific. It is something you do constantly, moment by moment, day by day. You are always assuming something about yourself. The question is whether you will assume consciously or unconsciously, deliberately or by default. Choose to assume consciously. Choose to assume deliberately. Choose to assume the highest and best that you can imagine for yourself. Do not settle for mediocrity when greatness is available to you. Do not accept limitation when freedom is your birthright. Do not remain in lack when abundance is the natural state of consciousness. Your new identity awaits your assumption. Your fulfilled desire awaits your feeling. Your transformed life awaits your persistence. All the power you need is already within you. All the knowledge you require has been given to you tonight. The only thing that remains is your decision to apply what you have learned. Will you continue to live from your old identity, or will you assume your new one? Will you continue to hope and wish and want, or will you begin to live from the wish fulfilled? Will you remain bound by appearances, or will you exercise your power as the operant consciousness in your world? The choice is yours, and it is a choice you must make not once, but every moment of every day. Each time you think about yourself, each time you feel into your identity, each time you assume something about your nature and your life, you are choosing who you will be and what you will experience. Choose wisely. Choose boldly. Choose with the full knowledge that you are the creator of your own experience, the author of your own story, the artist of your own life. Assume the identity that will create the life you truly desire. Feel yourself to be what you want to be. Live from the wish fulfilled. This is the great secret, the ultimate truth, the final revelation. You are not who you think you are. You are who you assume yourself to be. Change your assumption and you change your world. Assume your new identity and watch as everything in your life transforms to match that assumption. The power is yours. The choice is yours. The time is now. Assume your new identity and live from thee fulfilled. For this is your destiny, your purpose, your divine calling. This is the way to freedom, to fulfillment, to the complete realization of your infinite potential. Go forth and assume. Go forth and feel. Go forth and live from the end. Your new life begins the moment you truly embrace your new identity. Your transformation begins the moment you feel yourself to be what you have always wanted to be. Your wish is fulfilled the moment you assume that it is. This is the truth that sets you free. This is the knowledge that transforms your world. This is the power that makes all things possible. Use it wisely. Use it persistently. Use it with a complete conviction that consciousness is the only reality and that assumption is your created power. Your new identity awaits. Your wish fulfilled beckons. Your transformed life calls to you from the dimension of consciousness where it already exists in perfect completion. Step into that consciousness. Assume that identity. Live from that fulfillment. This is your birthright, your power, your destiny. The law is simple. The practice is clear. The results are inevitable. Assume your new identity and live from the wish fulfilled. For in the realm of consciousness, all things are possible to him who believes. And believing is simply assuming that what you desire is already yours in the only reality that truly matters, the reality of consciousness itself. For what is manifestation but the natural expression of consciousness? It is the externalization of an internal state. When you truly understand this principle, you will never again doubt your creative power. Tonight I bring you tidings of great joy. Your manifestation is confirmed. The universe is responding to your assumptions, to the state you have occupied, and everything needed for the fulfillment of your desires now in motion. I speak not of some distant hope or promise for the future. I speak of a principle that operates with mathematical precision in the eternal now. Before they call, I will answer, says Scripture. Your manifestation is already complete in what we might call the fourth dimensional world, and it is now being projected into your three-dimensional experience. Many of you have been faithful in your imaginal acts. You have persisted in the assumption that your desire is fulfilled. You have slept in the consciousness of the wish fulfilled, and now the universe conspires to show you the fruits of your mental labor. This is law, not luck. This is principle, not chance. Faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. Your faith, which is nothing more than your controlled and directed consciousness, has substantiated your desire in the spiritual realm. The evidence is now making its way into your visible world, and this message reaches you at the perfect time to confirm what you already know in the depths of your being. Do you remember the countless nights you spent in faithful prayer? Not the prayer of begging, but the prayer of assumption, feeling yourself into the state of your wish fulfilled. Those moments were not in vain. They were creative acts as tangible in their cognitive power as any physical action in this world. Consider this truth. Whatever you are conscious of being, you must and shall become. This is the true meaning of manifestation. It is not about attracting something foreign to yourself. It is about embodying in consciousness the very state that you desire to express. I am is the self-definition of the absolute. When you declare, I am wealthy, I am healthy, I am loved, you are defining yourself by these states, and the universe must respond accordingly. Many of you have asked for signs. You have looked to the outer world for confirmation of your inner work, and here it is. This message is your sign. The universe has sent you this precise communication to confirm that your manifestation is unfolding according to divine timing. Not a moment too soon, not a second too late. Let me share with you a principle that has transformed countless lives. When you assume the feeling of your wish fulfilled and persist in that assumption despite all evidence to the contrary, you are exercising true faith. And this faith is not blind hope. It is the controlled direction of consciousness, the most powerful force in existence. The outer world may still show you conditions that contradict your desire. Friends and family may question your certainty. Your own senses may argue against your assumption. But I tell you this, the outer world is merely the shadow of past assumptions. It has no power to create or to prevent. It simply reflects. What you are experiencing now is the harvest of seeds planted in the past. But in this very moment, you are planting new seeds through your I am consciousness, and those seeds must bear fruit after their kind. It is law. Tonight I invite you to deepen your awareness of this principle. Feel the relief, the satisfaction, the gratitude that naturally accompanies the fulfillment of desire. For when you genuinely feel these emotions, you are not anticipating future fulfillment. You are acknowledging present possession. This is the secret of manifestation. Some of you may ask, but Wayne, if my desire is already fulfilled in the spiritual realm, why does it not immediately appear in my world? Remember the divine timing of all things. Between the impregnation of consciousness and the manifestation in the outer world, there is a period of gestation. The seed must develop according to its nature. During this period, you must maintain your faith. You must continue to live from the end, occupying the state of fulfillment in your imagination. For imagination is the very substance of reality clothed in the appearance of the outer world. Now let us consider the power of your attention. Whatever you focus upon expands in your experience. If you focus on lack, you perpetuate lack. If you focus on abundance, you perpetuate abundance. This is why I urge you to withdraw your attention from all circumstances that contradict your desire. Give them no power by giving them no thought. The universe responds not to your wishes or your wants, but to your consciousness, to what you accept as true. When you truly accept in the depths of your being that your desire is fulfilled, all the powers of heaven and earth move to bring about its expression in your world. Many of you have struggled with this concept. You have tried to convince yourselves that you believe while secretly harboring doubts. But true faith is not self-deception. It is the natural response to a spiritual fact clearly perceived. When you truly see in your imagination the reality of your fulfilled desire, doubt becomes impossible. Consider this. When you sit in a chair, do you doubt that it will support you? Of course not. You have complete faith in the chair because your experience has taught you to trust it. In the same way as you practice living from the end and witness the resulting manifestations, your faith in this principle becomes unshakable. Tonight, I bring you confirmation. The universe has guided you to this message as evidence that your inner work is bearing fruit. Your manifestation is unfolding exactly as it should in divine order and perfect timing. Remember the words of Scripture. All things whatsoever ye shall ask in prayer, believing ye shall receive. The key word here is believing, not hoping, not wishing, but knowing with unwavering certainty. And this certainty comes not from external evidence, but from the clarity of your vision in consciousness. Let me tell you a story from my own experience that illustrates this principle. Many years ago, I desired to travel to Barbados to visit my family, but I had no money for passage and no apparent means of obtaining it. Rather than dwelling on these limiting circumstances, I assumed the feeling of already being in Barbados, surrounded by my loved ones. Each night as I fell asleep, I would imagine the unique sounds of my island home, feel the tropical breeze on my skin, and hear the voices of my family welcoming me. I persisted in this assumption, never wavering in my faith. Within a short time, through a series of events that no human could have orchestrated, I received an unexpected sum of money, exactly the amount needed for my passage. The outer circumstances rearranged themselves to conform to my inner assumption. This was not coincidence, it was law. I tell you this not to impress you, but to impress upon you the absolute certainty of this principle. What you persistently imagine and feel as true must and will externalize itself in your experience. There is no other way. Now, some of you may be thinking of your specific desires: a new home, a loving relationship, financial abundance, perfect health. Whatever your desire may be, the principle remains the same. You must assume the feeling of already being, having, or doing that which you desire. You must live from the end. This requires a fundamental shift in consciousness. Instead of seeing yourself as moving toward your goal, see yourself as having already attained it. Instead of working to achieve your desire, work from the position of its fulfillment. This subtle distinction makes all the difference in the world. When you truly understand this, manifestation ceases to be a mystery and becomes a simple matter of aligning your consciousness with the reality you wish to experience. The universe is not responding to your actions, your words, or even your conscious thoughts. It is responding to your state of being, to what you accept as true in the depths of your soul. Let me address a question that arises in many minds. What about others? Can I manifest changes in another person's behavior? Remember this eternal truth. Everyone in your world is yourself pushed out. What you experience in others is a reflection of your own consciousness. You cannot change another through force of will or through external action. But when you change your conception of another, when you see them in your imagination as you wish them to be, they must conform to this new ideal. Not because you have power over them, but because there's only one consciousness diversified in seemingly separate beings. This is why forgiveness is so crucial to manifestation. When you truly forgive, you are releasing the old conception of a person or situation and creating space for a new expression. Forgiveness is not about condoning behavior. It is about freeing yourself from the bonds of past impressions. I urge you to practice radical forgiveness of others, of circumstances, and most importantly of yourself. For many of you carry the burden of self, condemnation, believing yourselves unworthy of your desires. But I tell you this, worthiness is not a prerequisite for manifestation. The sun shines on the just and the unjust alike. The law of consciousness responds to all without judgment or discrimination. Your desires are not random. They are placed within you by the divine as a blueprint for your expansion and fulfillment. The very fact that you can conceive of a desire is evidence of your capacity to achieve it, for consciousness cannot desire something that it cannot express. Now let us turn our attention to the concept of divine timing. Many of you grow impatient when your manifestation does not appear according to your schedule. But remember, in the realm of spirit, there is no time as you know it. There is only the eternal now in which all possibilities exist simultaneously. What appears as delay in the outer world is often divine timing in the spiritual realm. The seed you have planted in consciousness may require a period of gestation. During this time, unseen forces are at work, arranging circumstances, inspiring actions, guiding individuals, all to bring about the perfect expression of your desire. Trust the process, trust the timing, and most importantly, trust yourself, the God self within you that knows exactly how and when to bring your good to manifestation. I want to address another common obstacle to manifestation, the tendency to dig up the seed to see if it's growing. When you plant a seed in the ground, you don't continuously unearth it to check its progress. You trust that it is developing according to its nature, invisible to your eyes, but absolutely certain in its growth. In the same way, once you have planted the seed of desire in consciousness through your imaginal act, allow it to develop without anxious monitoring. Your role is to water it with continued faith and to protect it from the weeds of doubt and fear. Many of you sabotage your manifestations by constantly checking for evidence. And when that evidence is not immediately apparent, you fall back into the old state of lack or limitation, this vacillation between states, the manifestation of your desire. Choose your state consciously and dwell there faithfully. This is the art of manifestation, not the anxious pursuit of a future goal, but the peaceful occupation of a present reality in consciousness. Tonight, I bring you confirmation that your imaginal work is bearing fruit. The universe has guided you to this message as evidence of your creative power. Your manifestation is unfolding with perfect precision, and this communication is a signpost along the way. Consider the power of your words, which are the outer expression of your consciousness. Death and life are in the power of the tongue, says Scripture. Your declarations, both silent and spoken, shape your reality. So guard your speech, carefully ensuring that it aligns with your desired state, not with the limitations of the current appearance. Instead of saying, I am trying to manifest, say, I have manifested. Instead of saying, I hope it will happen, say, I am grateful that it has happened. Speak from the end, just as you imagine from the end. Let your words reflect not what your eyes show you, but what your imagination knows to be true. This brings us to an important aspect of manifestation, gratitude. Genuine gratitude is not merely saying thank you for something you hope to receive. It is the soul's recognition of already having received. When you give thanks from the depth of your being for your manifested desire, you are affirming its reality and consciousness and thus hastening its appearance in experience. Practice gratitude not as a technique to get something, but as an acknowledgement of something already possessed. This subtle distinction transforms gratitude from a method into a revelation of the truth that all you desire is already yours in consciousness. Now let me address those of you who have been practicing these principles without seeing the results you desire. First, examine your imaginal acts. Are you truly dwelling in the end, or are you subtly reinforcing the current limitations? Are you living from the state of fulfillment, or are you merely visiting it occasionally while maintaining residence in the state of lack? Manifestation requires consistency, not of effort, but of state. It is not the occasional intense imaginal session that brings results, but the habitual occupation of the desired state. Your assumptions to be effective must be more than mental exercises. They must become the core of your being. Many of you may find it challenging to maintain this consistency in the face of contradictory evidence. This is where the power of revision becomes invaluable. At the end of each day, review the events that seem to deny your desired state, and in your imagination, revise them to align with your ideal. If someone spoke words that imply limitation, revise the conversation in your mind to hear them confirming your abundance. If circumstances appear to move away from your goal, reimagine them as stepping stones toward it. This practice of revision prevents the accumulation of contradictory impressions and maintains the integrity of your chosen state. Let me emphasize a truth that many of you have overlooked. The outer world has no power to create or to prevent. It is purely responsive, never positive. Your circumstances do not determine your consciousness. Your consciousness determines your circumstances. Therefore, no matter what appears in your experience today, you have the power to transform it through a simple shift in consciousness. This shift is not a denial of current facts, but a recognition of a higher truth, that facts are merely the shadow of past assumptions and have no power to determine future experience. Many of you have asked about the role of action and manifestation. Should you act to bring about your desire, or should you wait for it to appear? The answer lies in understanding inspired action versus calculated action. When you genuinely occupy the state of your wish fulfilled, you will be moved from within to take certain actions. These actions will not be calculated efforts to achieve your desire, but natural expressions of the state you have assumed. They will feel effortless, joyful, and perfectly aligned with your being. This is inspired action. Action that flows from the state of fulfillment, not action that strives toward it. The distinction is subtle but significant. One comes from abundance, the other from lack. One expresses, the other pursues. Trust the inner prompting that comes from your assumed state and follow it without hesitation. Now let us consider a principle that few truly understand: the identity of imagination and reality. Most people believe that imagination is separate from reality, a kind of mental fantasy distinct from the solid facts of existence. But I tell you this, imagination is reality itself in a different dimension of expression. What you imagine is not less real than what you experience with your senses. It is simply operating on a different level of manifestation. The spiritual precedes and shapes the physical, just as the blueprint precedes and shapes the building. Your imaginal acts are the blueprints of your experience. When you truly grasp this principle, you will no longer suffer the anxiety of waiting for your desire to manifest. You will know that in the act of imagining, you have already received. The outer expression is merely the shadow following the substance of your imagination. The universe has sent you this confirmation because you are ready to elevate your understanding of manifestation from the level of technique to the level of principle. Techniques may be useful as aids to concentration, but it is the principle that produces results, and the principle is simple. Consciousness is the only reality, and what you are conscious of being, you must become. Many of you have divided your consciousness, believing one thing in your imagination while accepting something different as reality. This division must be healed for successful manifestation. There must be a perfect agreement between your inner and outer acceptance, between what you imagine and what you believe to be real. This is why I emphasize living from the end. When you truly live from the state of fulfillment, you do not mentally place your desire in the future. You experience it as present fact here and now. This present tense experience in imagination becomes the bridge of incidents leading to its physical expression. Consider this profound truth. The feeling is the secret, not the intellectual acceptance, not the verbal affirmation, but the feeling. When you can genuinely feel yourself into the state of your wish fulfilled, you have found the secret of manifestation. This feeling is more than emotion. It is the soul's recognition of a state as its own. It is the merging of your being with the desired state until there is no separation, no striving, no becoming, only being. Tonight, as the universe confirms your manifestation, I urge you to deepen this feeling. Let it permeate every aspect of your consciousness until you no longer remember what it was like to desire what you now possess in consciousness. Many of you wonder about the mechanics of manifestation. How exactly does the imaginal act translate into physical experience? While the complete answer transcends human understanding, we can comprehend this much. Consciousness is the substance from which all reality is formed, and imagination is the tool that shapes this substance. When you imagine, you are not creating mental pictures separate from reality. You are creating the very substance of experience in its initial form. This form then passes through various stages of manifestation until it appears as tangible reality. The time lag between the imaginal act and its physical expression is what you perceive as the process of manifestation. But in truth, there is no process, only the translation of a reality from one state of perception to another. The desire is fulfilled the moment you assume the feeling of its fulfillment in imagination. Its appearance in your outer world is merely the final stage of a journey already completed. Now let me address a question that troubles many sincere students of this principle. Why do some desires manifest quickly while others seem to take forever? The answer lies not in the magnitude of the desire, but in your acceptance of its fulfillment. Some states you accept easily without inner conflict or contradiction. These manifest quickly. Others you may consciously affirm while subconsciously denying, creating a division in consciousness that delays manifestation. The key to swift manifestation is wholehearted acceptance, not just with your conscious mind, but with your entire being. When every aspect of your consciousness aligns with your desire, when there is no part of you that questions or doubts its fulfillment, manifestation becomes instantaneous. This is why I urge you to examine your beliefs, not just your conscious beliefs, but the deeper assumptions that may be operating below the level of awareness. For these subconscious beliefs often exert more influence on your manifestations than your conscious affirmations. How do you uncover these hidden beliefs? By observing your manifestations. Your experience is the perfect mirror of your true beliefs. If your manifestations consistently fall short in a particular area, you can be certain that there is a limiting belief operating in that domain. Once identified, these beliefs can be transformed through the same principle that governs all manifestation, the conscious assumption of the opposite state. If you discover a belief in limitation, assume the feeling of abundance. If you uncover a belief in unworthiness, assume the feeling of deserving. This assumption persisted in will revise the subconscious programming and remove the block to manifestation. The universe has sent you this confirmation because you are ready to clear these hidden obstacles. You are prepared to align your entire being with your desire, creating the perfect conditions for manifestation. Let me now address the relationship between desire and detachment, which confuses many students of manifestation. You are told to desire fervently, yet detach from the outcome. How is this possible? The answer lies in understanding the true nature of detachment. Detachment is not indifference to your desire. It is not pretending not to care. It is the profound recognition that your desire is already fulfilled in consciousness, and therefore there is nothing to be anxious about, nothing to strive for, nothing to worry over. It is the peace that comes from knowing the end is secure. True detachment comes naturally when you live from the end. When you genuinely feel that you already have what you desire, the desperate craving for it dissolves. You are detached not from the desire itself, but from the sense of lack that typically accompanies unfulfilled desire. This is the paradox manifestation. The more completely feel the fulfillment of your desire and imagination, the more detached you become from its absence in the outer world. And this very detachment accelerates its manifestation. The universe confirms your manifestation tonight because you have reached or are approaching this state of fulfilled detachment. You are learning to rest in the consciousness of completion, even as you wait for its expression in experience. Now let us explore an aspect of manifestation that is often overlooked, the role of your self-concept. Your self-concept is the collection of beliefs you hold about yourself, your identity, your worth, your capabilities. It determines not only what you can manifest, but what you will allow yourself to manifest. Many of you create specific manifestations that align with your desire only to sabotage them because they conflict with your deeper self-concept. If you see yourself as undeserving, no technique of manifestation will override this core belief. The manifestation may appear briefly, but it will not persist unless it aligns with who you believe yourself to be. This is why the most powerful manifestation work begins with the transformation of the self-concept. Before you can consistently manifest specific desires, you must manifest the self who naturally possesses those desires. You must revise your identity to match your aspirations. How do you revise your self-concept? Through the same principle that governs all manifestation, the conscious assumption of the state. You must assume the feeling of being the person who naturally experiences your desired reality. You must live from the identity that aligns with your aspirations. This work on the self-concept explains why some manifestations seem to require more time and persistence than others. When a desire aligns with your existing self-concept, it manifests easily. When it requires a profound shift in identity, the manifestation unfolds through a series of transformations, each building upon the last until the new self-concept is fully established. The universe has sent you this confirmation because you are ready to embrace a higher self-concept. You are prepared to release the limitations of the past and to assume the identity that naturally attracts your desires. Consider the words of Scripture. Put off the old man and put on the new man. This is not merely moral instruction. It is a practical guide to manifestation. The old man is your previous self-concept with all its limitations and contradictions. The new man is the self who naturally embodies your desires as you consistently embody this new self in imagination. The outer expression must follow. This brings us to another essential aspect of manifestation, persistence. Many of you practice these principles sporadically, assuming the feeling of your wish fulfilled for a brief time, then returning to the old state of consciousness. This vacillation creates mixed results, manifestations that come and go, reflecting the inconsistency of your state. Persistence does not mean effort or strain. It means maintaining your chosen state regardless of appearances until it becomes your dwelling place. It means refusing to be moved by contradictory evidence, knowing that the outer must eventually conform to the inner. How long must you persist until your assumption hardens into fact? For some desires, this may occur quickly. For others, especially those that require significant revision of your self-concept, it may require more time, but the principle is certain. What you persistently assume must externalize itself in your experience. The universe confirms your manifestation because it recognizes your growing capacity for persistence. You are learning to maintain your chosen state with increasing faithfulness, creating the perfect conditions for manifestation. Now, let me address a question that arises for many sincere students. What about the desires of others? What if my manifestation conflicts with someone else's? This question reveals a fundamental misunderstanding of the nature of consciousness and reality. In truth, there is only one consciousness appearing as many. Your manifestation cannot conflict with another's because at the deepest level there is no other. What appears as conflict is merely the outworking of different states of consciousness within the one mind. When you truly understand this principle, you realize that manifestation is not about imposing your will upon a separate reality. It is about aligning your individual expression of consciousness with the universal harmony. When your desire arises from this alignment, it naturally benefits all, and no conflict is possible. This is why I emphasize that true desire comes from the depths of your being, not from the superficial ego. The desires that are placed within you by the divine are always in harmony with the good of all because they arise from the one consciousness that embraces all. The universe confirms your manifestation because it recognizes the purity of your desire. As you move beyond ego-based, wanting to soul-inspired, desiring your manifestations, increasingly express the divine harmony that benefits all. Let me now address the role of surrender in manifestation, which seems paradoxical to many. You are told to assume control of your reality through conscious imagination, yet also to surrender to the divine will. How can you do both? The answer lies in understanding the true nature of surrender. Surrender is not the abdication of your creative power. It is not passive acceptance of whatever comes. It is the recognition that your individual consciousness is one with the divine consciousness and that your true desires arise from this oneness. When you surrender in the context of manifestation, you are releasing your attachment to the how and the when while maintaining absolute faith in the what. You are acknowledging that the wisdom of the universe may bring about your manifestation in ways that transcend your limit. Conscension. This surrender actually accelerates manifestation because it removes the tension and anxiety that often block the natural expression of your desire. It creates space for infinite intelligence to arrange the perfect conditions for your good to appear. The universe confirms your manifestation because it recognizes your growing capacity for this higher form of surrender. Not the surrender of powerlessness, but the surrender of trust and faith. As we approach the conclusion of this message, I want to emphasize truth that will transform your understanding of manifestation. Your outer world is not random or accidental. It is not determined by forces beyond your control. It is the precise externalization of your consciousness reflecting with perfect accuracy the states you have occupied and the assumptions you have embodied. This means that nothing in your experience is exempt from the law of consciousness. Nothing is outside your sphere of influence. Everything from your intimate relationships to your financial circumstances, from your physical health to your spiritual understanding, is subject to transformation through the conscious direction of your innation. When you truly comprehend this principle, you cease to be a victim of circumstances and become the conscious creator of your reality. You no longer react to conditions, you generate them. You no longer wait for change. You initiate it through the deliberate revision of your assumptions. The universe confirms your manifestation because it recognizes your readiness to accept this level of responsibility for your experience. You are prepared to acknowledge that your life is the perfect reflection of your consciousness and to use this knowledge not for self-condemnation but for creative transformation. Tonight I invite you to accept this confirmation from the universe. Embrace the truth that your manifestation is unfolding with perfect precision, guided by the wisdom of your divine self. Trust the process even when the outer evidence suggests delay or failure. Know that the seed you have planted in consciousness must bear fruit after its kind. And remember this eternal principle: the feeling is the secret. Not the intellectual understanding, not the verbal affirmation, but the feeling of already being what you desire to be, of already having what you desire to have, of already experiencing what you desire to experience. As you integrate this principle into your being, as you make it the foundation of your daily practice, you will witness the miraculous unfoldment of your desires in ways that transcend your expectations. For the wisdom that guides manifestation exceeds human understanding, arranging circumstances and inspiring actions with a precision that no human mind could conceive. The universe has sent you this confirmation because you stand at the threshold of a new understanding, a deeper application of the principle of conscious creation. You are ready to move beyond technique to embodiment, beyond periodic practice to consistent assumption. Go forth in the certainty that your manifestation is confirmed. Live from the state of fulfillment, regardless of appearances. Maintain your faith not as effort, but as the natural response to a truth clearly perceived. And watch as the outer world reshapes itself to match the inner reality you have established in consciousness. For this is the promise and the principle: what you are conscious of being, you must and shall become. It is law, not luck. It is principle, not chance, and it operates with mathematical precision in the life of a Oneian who applies it with understanding and faith. The universe confirms your manifestation. Accept this confirmation not as future promise, but as present fact. For in the reality of consciousness, where all manifestation begins, your desire is already fulfilled. Its appearance in time and space is merely the final stage of a journey already completed in the eternal.